Sarah loved to run. Not just a little jog around the block, but real running. Marathon running. She dreamed of winning the city marathon one day. Every morning before school, she'd lace up her bright blue running shoes and hit the pavement. She ran through the park, past the bakery with the yummy smells, and all the way to the big oak tree at the edge of town. Then, she'd turn around and do it all again. Sarah wasn't just running for fun. She was training. She followed a strict schedule her coach had given her. It told her how far to run each day, and how fast. Some days were easy, just a light jog. Other days were hard, pushing her to her limit. She even practiced running in the heat and the cold, so she'd be ready for anything on race day. Her room was covered in running posters. There was a picture of her favorite marathon runner, a woman named Maria Rodriguez, who always smiled when she ran. Sarah wanted to be like Maria. She wanted to be strong and happy, even when her legs felt like jelly. She carefully tracked her progress in a notebook. Every run, every time, every feeling, written down in neat handwriting. She noted when her muscles felt sore, when she had lots of energy, and what she ate before each run. She even tracked the weather. Sarah also paid close attention to what she ate. She knew that eating healthy was just as important as running. She loved fruits and vegetables, especially juicy oranges and crunchy carrots. Her mom made her special oatmeal with berries and nuts every morning before her run. And she always drank plenty of water to stay hydrated. Sometimes, she'd run with her friends. They would laugh and chat, making the miles fly by. But mostly, Sarah ran alone. She liked the quiet time to think and focus. She'd imagine herself crossing the finish line, the crowd cheering her name. She felt like she was doing everything right. She was training hard, eating well, and getting enough sleep. The city marathon was only a few months away, and she was determined to be ready. She imagined herself running that marathon and doing really well. Maybe, just maybe, she could even win. All that hard work would be worth it. All those early mornings, all those sore muscles, all that dedication. It would all pay off when she crossed that finish line. She could almost feel the medal around her neck already. The sun was shining brightly on a Tuesday morning as Sarah began her usual run. She felt great. Her legs were strong, the air was cool, and she was excited about her workout. She planned to run 10 miles today, pushing herself a little harder than usual. She started off at a steady pace, feeling the rhythm of her feet hitting the pavement. She passed her favorite bakery, taking a deep breath of the sweet cinnamon smell. She waved to Mrs. Gable, the baker, who always smiled and waved back. As she continued her run, she started to feel a little winded. It was unusual because the first few miles were usually easy for her. She slowed down a bit, thinking maybe she just needed to warm up more. But the feeling didn't go away. It actually got worse. By mile 4, Sarah was struggling. Her chest felt tight, and she was having trouble catching her breath. Her heart was pounding in her chest like a drum. She stopped running and bent over, trying to take deep breaths. But it didn't help. "I just need to rest for a minute," she told herself, trying to stay calm. She sat down on a nearby bench, hoping the feeling would pass. But instead, her vision started to blur. She felt dizzy and lightheaded. Her heart was now racing so fast she thought it might jump out of her chest. Suddenly, everything went black. A few minutes later, a jogger found Sarah unconscious on the bench. He immediately called 911. The paramedics arrived quickly and started to examine her. They checked her pulse, which was incredibly rapid, and her breathing, which was shallow and fast. "She's in distress," one of the paramedics said urgently. "We need to get her to the hospital right away." They carefully lifted Sarah onto a stretcher and loaded her into the ambulance. The sirens wailed as they sped through the streets towards the nearest hospital. At the hospital, doctors and nurses rushed to Sarah's side. They hooked her up to monitors to track her heart rate, blood pressure, and oxygen levels. They gave her oxygen to help her breathe. Sarah slowly regained consciousness. She felt weak and confused. "What happened?" she whispered. "You collapsed," a nurse explained. "You're in the hospital now. We're going to take good care of you." The doctors ran a series of tests to try to figure out what had caused Sarah to collapse. They did an EKG to check her heart, a chest X-ray to look at her lungs, and blood tests to check for any infections or other problems. The initial results were concerning. The EKG showed that Sarah's heart was beating irregularly. The doctors suspected she might have a rare heart condition that was causing her problems. They decided to admit her to the hospital for further observation and testing. Sarah was scared. She didn't understand what was happening to her body. She just wanted to run again. The next few days were a blur of tests and procedures. Doctors poked and prodded, listened to her heart, and asked her lots of questions. Sarah tried to answer them all, but she was still weak and confused. She missed running. She missed the feeling of the wind in her hair and the sun on her face. The lead cardiologist, Dr. Miller, a kind woman with glasses perched on her nose, explained the initial findings. "Sarah, your heart isn't beating the way it should. We think you might have something called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's a rare condition where the heart muscle gets thicker than normal, making it harder for the heart to pump blood." Sarah didn't understand all the big words, but she understood enough. Her heart wasn't working right. "Can you fix it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Dr. Miller smiled reassuringly. "We're going to do everything we can. We have medications that can help control your heart rate and rhythm. We might also need to do a procedure to help thin out the heart muscle." Sarah's parents were by her side, holding her hand and offering words of encouragement. They were scared too, but they tried to hide it from her. They told her she was strong and that she would get through this. The doctors started Sarah on medication to regulate her heart. She had to take pills several times a day, and they made her feel tired and nauseous. She also had to wear a heart monitor, a small device that recorded her heart's activity throughout the day. It beeped and whirred, a constant reminder that something was wrong. More tests followed. An echocardiogram used sound waves to create a picture of her heart. A cardiac MRI gave the doctors a detailed view of her heart muscle. They were trying to get a clear picture of what was going on inside her chest. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah grew increasingly frustrated. The medication wasn't helping as much as the doctors had hoped. She still felt short of breath and her heart still raced sometimes. She couldn't run, she couldn't even walk very far without feeling exhausted. She started to lose hope. She wondered if she would ever be able to run again. She missed her friends, who visited her in the hospital but didn't quite know what to say. She missed her normal life. One afternoon, Dr. Miller came to her room with a serious look on her face. "Sarah," she said, "the medication isn't working as well as we'd like. We need to consider other options." Sarah's heart sank. What other options were there? Was she going to be sick forever? "What else can you do?" she asked, her voice trembling. Dr. Miller explained that they could try a more invasive procedure, but it was risky. It involved inserting a catheter into her heart to burn away some of the thickened muscle. It could help, but it could also cause complications. Sarah felt overwhelmed. She didn't know what to do. She looked at her parents, their faces etched with worry. The decision was hers, but she didn't know how to make it. All she knew was that she wanted to feel better. She wanted to run again. And she was willing to do almost anything to make that happen. Sarah and her parents discussed the risky procedure with Dr. Miller. They asked lots of questions about the potential benefits and risks. Dr. Miller explained everything carefully, but the truth was, there were no guarantees. After a long and tearful discussion, Sarah decided to go ahead with the procedure. She knew it was a gamble, but she couldn't imagine living the rest of her life feeling weak and breathless. She wanted to run again, and this was her best chance. The day of the procedure arrived, and Sarah was nervous but determined. She kissed her parents goodbye and was wheeled into the operating room. Dr. Miller and her team were waiting for her, their faces serious and focused. The procedure took several hours. Sarah was under anesthesia, so she didn't feel anything. But her parents waited anxiously in the waiting room, praying for the best. When the procedure was over, Dr. Miller came to the waiting room to give them an update. The procedure went as planned, she said. We were able to burn away some of the thickened heart muscle. But it's too early to tell if it was successful. We'll need to monitor Sarah closely over the next few days. Sarah was taken to the intensive care unit to recover. She was still groggy from the anesthesia, but she was relieved that the procedure was over. She hoped that it would make a difference. However, as the days passed, Sarah didn't get any better. In fact, she seemed to be getting worse. She was still short of breath, her heart was still racing, and she was now experiencing chest pain. The doctors ran more tests, but they couldn't figure out why Sarah wasn't responding to the treatment. They adjusted her medication, but nothing seemed to help. Dr. Miller was baffled. She had never seen anything like this before. She consulted with other cardiologists, but they were just as puzzled. Sarah's condition continued to deteriorate. She was now confined to her bed, unable to even sit up without feeling dizzy. She was losing weight and her muscles were weakening. Her parents were heartbroken. They couldn't understand why the procedure hadn't worked. They felt helpless as they watched their daughter slip away. One evening, Sarah's heart rate spiked dangerously high. She started to have trouble breathing. The nurses rushed to her side and called Dr. Miller. Dr. Miller arrived quickly and examined Sarah. She knew that Sarah was in serious trouble. We need to do something drastic, she said. I'm not sure what else to do. Sarah's parents were desperate. Just do whatever you can, her mother pleaded. Please save our daughter. Dr. Miller decided to try one last thing. She ordered a powerful medication that was sometimes used to treat severe heart conditions. It was a long shot, but it was the only thing they hadn't tried yet. The medication was administered, and everyone waited anxiously to see if it would work. But after several hours, there was no change. Sarah's condition remained critical. It was clear that the treatment had failed. Sarah was not getting better. The rare heart condition they thought she had was not responding to any of the treatments they were trying. Hope was fading fast. Just when things seemed darkest, a new doctor arrived at the hospital. It was Dr. House, a brilliant but unconventional diagnostician known for solving medical mysteries that stumped other doctors. He wasn't always the nicest person, but he was usually right. Dr. House limped into Sarah's room, leaning on his cane. He looked around, his eyes scanning the monitors and medical charts. He didn't introduce himself or offer any words of comfort. He just started asking questions. So, he said, his voice gruff, you're a marathon runner with a bum ticker. What makes you so special? Sarah's parents were taken aback by his rude tone. Excuse me, her father said, but my daughter is very sick. She doesn't need to be treated like this. Dr. House ignored him. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, huh? Textbook case. Except the textbook treatment isn't working. Why is that? Dr. Miller, who had been summoned to the room, explained the situation to Dr. House. She told him about the tests they had run, the treatments they had tried, and the procedure that had failed. Dr. House listened intently, tapping his cane against the floor. When Dr. Miller was finished, he shook his head. Something doesn't add up, he said. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy doesn't usually progress this quickly, especially in someone as young and healthy as her. He turned to Sarah. Are you taking anything? Any supplements? Any performance-enhancing drugs? Sarah was shocked. No, she exclaimed. I would never do that. I believe in training hard and playing fair. Dr. House raised an eyebrow. Everyone says that. But people lie. Even to themselves. He ordered a new set of tests, including a toxicology screen to check for drugs and other substances. He also asked for Sarah's medical records from the past few years. While they waited for the results, Dr. House spent hours reviewing Sarah's case. He pored over her medical charts, her test results, and her training logs. He talked to her coaches, her friends, and her family. He was trying to find any clue that might explain her mysterious illness. He noticed something interesting in Sarah's training logs. A few months before she collapsed, she had traveled to another country to participate in a race. It was a small race, but it was a chance for her to gain some international experience. Dr. House asked Sarah about the race. He wanted to know everything she ate and drank while she was there. He paid particular attention to the energy gels she had used during the race. "Where did you get those gels?" he asked. "Did you bring them from home, or did you buy them there?" Sarah remembered that she had bought the gels at a local store in the other country. She had never seen that brand before, but they were on sale, so she decided to try them. Dr. House's eyes lit up. "That's it," he exclaimed. "I think I know what's going on." He explained his theory to Dr. Miller and Sarah's parents. He believed that Sarah had contracted a rare infection from the energy gels she had consumed during the race abroad. The infection was attacking her heart and lungs, causing her symptoms. The initial diagnosis of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy was a mistake, a misreading of the symptoms caused by the infection. It was a long shot, but it was the only explanation that made sense. And if Dr. House was right, there was still a chance to save Sarah's life. Dr. House immediately tasked his team, a group of young and eager doctors, with investigating Sarah's background. He wanted them to leave no stone unturned. "Cuddy wants results, and so do I," House announced, addressing his team in his usual blunt manner. "Find me something concrete. Doping, a hidden illness, anything that explains why she's not responding to treatment for this supposed heart condition." Chase, the Australian doctor, was assigned to delve into Sarah's training regimen. He reviewed her training logs, interviewed her coach, and even observed her training partners. He was looking for any sign of performance-enhancing drugs or unusual training methods. Cameron, the empathetic immunologist, focused on Sarah's medical history. She contacted Sarah's previous doctors, reviewed her childhood vaccinations, and searched for any underlying conditions that might have been missed. Foreman, the neurologist, was tasked with investigating Sarah's living environment and diet. He visited her home, examined her kitchen, and interviewed her parents about their lifestyle. He was looking for any environmental factors or dietary habits that might be contributing to her illness. Each member of the team worked tirelessly, following every lead and pursuing every possibility. They knew that Dr. House was counting on them to find the answer. Chase reported back first. "I found nothing to suggest doping," he said. "Her training regimen is rigorous but clean. Her coach is reputable, and her training partners swear she's never used performance-enhancing drugs." Cameron's findings were equally negative. "Her medical history is unremarkable," she said. "She's had the usual childhood illnesses, but nothing that would explain her current condition." Foreman's investigation yielded a small clue. "I found some unusual energy gel wrappers in her trash can," he said. "They're a brand I've never seen before, and they're not sold in this country." Dr. House's ears perked up. "Where did she get them?" he asked. "Apparently, she bought them during a race she ran overseas," Foreman replied. "She said they were on sale, so she decided to try them." Dr. House leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "That's it," he said. "That's our smoking gun." He ordered the team to track down the manufacturer of the energy gels and to test them for any contaminants. He also asked them to research any known cases of infections or illnesses linked to energy gels. The team worked feverishly, determined to prove Dr. House's theory. They knew that Sarah's life depended on it. The pressure was on, but they were determined to find the truth, no matter where it led. They started with the race where Sarah bought the gel packs, and with the help of medical databases, they started piecing together the puzzle. It was a race against time. The team raced against the clock. Chase managed to locate the small store in the foreign country where Sarah had purchased the energy gels. He contacted the store owner, who remembered selling the gels but had no information about the manufacturer. Cameron, meanwhile, searched medical databases for any reports of illnesses linked to energy gels. She found a few isolated cases of food poisoning, but nothing that matched Sarah's symptoms. Foreman, using his contacts in the pharmaceutical industry, finally tracked down the manufacturer of the energy gels. It was a small, unknown company with a history of questionable practices. They've been cited for unsanitary manufacturing conditions in the past, Foreman reported to Dr. House. They've also been accused of using substandard ingredients. Dr. House's suspicion grew stronger. He ordered the team to obtain samples of the energy gels and to test them for any contaminants. He also contacted the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, to request their assistance. The CDC sent a team of experts to the hospital to investigate. They collected samples of Sarah's blood, her urine, and her tissue. They also took samples of the energy gels. The tests came back a few days later, and the results were shocking. The energy gels were contaminated with a rare parasite, a microscopic organism that was known to attack the heart and lungs. It's called Paragonimus westermanni, Cameron explained. It's usually found in contaminated seafood, but it can also be transmitted through contaminated food or water. Dr. House was vindicated. His hunch about the energy gels had been right. But the discovery of the parasite was just the beginning. Now, they had to figure out how to treat it. This parasite is nasty, said Cameron. It migrates through the body, causing inflammation and damage. It can be difficult to kill. Dr. House consulted with infectious disease specialists, who recommended a course of antiparasitic drugs. But they warned that the drugs could have serious side effects. Sarah's condition was deteriorating rapidly. Her heart was failing, and her lungs were filling with fluid. She was barely conscious. Dr. House knew that they had to act fast. He decided to start Sarah on the antiparasitic drugs immediately, despite the risks. "We don't have a choice," he said. "If we don't treat her, she's going to die." The drugs were administered, and everyone waited anxiously to see if they would work. It was a long and agonizing wait. Sarah's life hung in the balance. The next few hours would be critical. The team monitored her vital signs closely, hoping for any sign of improvement. They knew that if the drugs didn't work, Sarah's chances of survival were slim. The entire hospital held its breath, praying for a miracle. Hours turned into what felt like days. The monitors beeped rhythmically, each sound a reminder of Sarah's fragile state. Dr. House, despite his gruff exterior, stayed by Sarah's side, constantly reviewing her charts and consulting with his team. He was a man possessed, driven by the need to solve the puzzle and save her life. "Her heart rate is still erratic," Cameron reported, her voice filled with concern. "And her oxygen levels are dangerously low." "Increase the oxygen flow," Dr. House ordered. "And keep monitoring her kidney function. These drugs can be hard on the kidneys." He turned to Foreman. "Any news from the CDC?" "They're investigating the energy gel manufacturer," Foreman replied. "They've shut down their production line and are recalling all of their products." Dr. House nodded grimly. "Too little, too late for Sarah," he muttered. Suddenly, one of the monitors started beeping wildly. Sarah's heart rate had plummeted. "Code blue," a nurse shouted. The room erupted into chaos. Doctors and nurses rushed to Sarah's side, administering CPR and injecting her with medications. Dr. House stood back, his face grim. He knew that they were losing her. After what seemed like an eternity, Sarah's heart rate stabilized. But she was still in critical condition. "We need to do something more," Dr. Miller said, her voice desperate. We can't just stand here and watch her die. Dr. House thought for a moment. There's one more thing we can try, he said. It's risky, but it might be her only chance. He explained that they could try a procedure called extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, ECMO. It involved using a machine to pump blood out of Sarah's body, oxygenate it, and then return it to her body. It would give her heart and lungs a chance to rest and recover. It was a complex and invasive procedure, but it was Sarah's last hope. Her parents agreed to the procedure, desperate to save their daughter's life. Sarah was rushed to the operating room, where a team of surgeons prepared her for ECMO. The procedure took several hours, but finally, it was complete. Sarah was placed on the ECMO machine, and her vital signs slowly began to improve. Her heart rate stabilized, and her oxygen levels rose. For the first time in days, there was a glimmer of hope. But everyone knew that the battle was far from over. Sarah was still in critical condition, and she faced a long and difficult recovery. Dr. House remained by her side, watching and waiting. He was determined to see her through this. He had solved the mystery, but now he had to help her survive. He knew that it would take all of his skill and determination to bring her back from the brink. The next few days would be crucial. Sarah's life hung in the balance, and Dr. House refused to give up. The next few days were a roller coaster of ups and downs. Sarah remained on the ECMO machine, her body slowly fighting off the parasite. The antiparasitic drugs were working, but they were also causing side effects, including nausea, fatigue, and kidney problems. Dr. House and his team worked tirelessly to manage Sarah's symptoms and to monitor her progress. They adjusted her medication, provided supportive care, and offered words of encouragement. Slowly but surely, Sarah began to improve. Her heart function started to recover, and her lungs began to clear. She was still weak and fragile, but she was alive. One morning, Sarah opened her eyes and looked around the room. She was confused and disoriented, but she recognized her parents, who were sitting by her bedside. "Mom. Dad," she whispered. Her parents rushed to her side, tears streaming down their faces. "You're awake," her mother exclaimed. "You're going to be okay." Sarah smiled weakly. "What happened?" she asked. Her parents explained everything that had happened, from her collapse during training to Dr. House's discovery of the parasite. Sarah was shocked and grateful. "Thank you," she said, her voice hoarse. "Thank you for saving my life." Dr. House entered the room, leaning on his cane. He stood at the foot of the bed, observing Sarah with a rare smile on his face. "Don't thank me yet," he said. "You still have a long way to go. But you're on the right track." He explained that Sarah would need to remain on the ECMO machine for several more days, and that she would require extensive physical therapy to regain her strength. "But if you work hard and follow our instructions," he said, "I think you'll be able to run again someday." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Really?" she asked. "You think I can run again?" "I don't make promises I can't keep," Dr. House replied. "But you're a fighter. And I think you have what it takes." Over the next few weeks, Sarah made steady progress. She was weaned off the ECMO machine, and she began physical therapy. It was slow and painful, but she was determined to get back on her feet. She spent hours working with a physical therapist, strengthening her muscles and improving her endurance. She also met with a nutritionist to develop a healthy eating plan. With each passing day, Sarah grew stronger and more confident. She started walking, then jogging, and finally, running. It wasn't easy, but she refused to give up. One day, Sarah ran a mile without stopping. It was the first time she had run that far since her collapse. She was exhausted, but she was also elated. She knew that she still had a long way to go before she could run a marathon again. But she was determined to get there. She had faced death and survived. Now, she was ready to live her life to the fullest. The journey back would be long, but she was ready for it. She was ready to run again. The weeks turned into months, and Sarah continued to work hard in physical therapy. She pushed herself every day, determined to regain her strength and endurance. She had setbacks, days when she felt discouraged and exhausted. But she never gave up. Dr. House and his team continued to monitor her progress, adjusting her treatment plan as needed. They celebrated her milestones, big and small, and offered words of encouragement when she felt down. One day, Dr. Miller approached Sarah with a smile. "I have some good news," she said. "Your heart function is almost back to normal. And your lungs are completely clear." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Does that mean?" "It means you're ready to start training again," Dr. Miller replied. "But you need to take it slow and listen to your body. Don't push yourself too hard." Sarah was overjoyed. She couldn't wait to lace up her running shoes and hit the pavement again. She started slowly, with short walks and light jogs. She gradually increased her distance and intensity, always careful not to overdo it. She also made some changes to her diet. She eliminated processed foods and sugary drinks, and she focused on eating healthy, whole foods. She also started carrying her own energy gels, ensuring that they were from a reputable source. As she trained, Sarah reflected on everything that had happened. She realized how lucky she was to be alive. She also realized the importance of food safety and the dangers of contaminated products. She decided to use her experience to raise awareness about food safety. She started speaking at schools and community events, sharing her story and encouraging people to be careful about what they eat and drink. She also became an advocate for stricter food safety regulations. She worked with lawmakers to pass legislation that would protect consumers from contaminated products. Sarah's story inspired people all over the world. She showed them that even in the face of adversity, it is possible to overcome challenges and achieve your dreams. 1 year after her collapse, Sarah lined up at the starting line of the city marathon. She wasn't expecting to win, or even to finish. She just wanted to prove to herself that she could do it. The starting gun fired, and Sarah took off. She ran slowly and steadily, listening to her body and enjoying the moment. The crowd cheered her on, recognizing her as the young woman who had almost died. They were inspired by her courage and her determination. Sarah crossed the finish line, exhausted but triumphant. She didn't win the race, but she had won something even more important. She had won back her life. Dr. House was waiting for her at the finish line, leaning on his cane. He offered her a rare smile. "Congratulations," he said. "You did it." Sarah smiled back. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said. "Thank you for everything." Dr. House shrugged. "Just doing my job," he said. But Sarah knew that he had done much more than that. He had saved her life. And for that, she would be forever grateful. Her journey had been difficult, but it had made her stronger and more determined than ever before. She was ready to take on whatever challenges life might throw her way. She was a survivor, and she was ready to run. Months after her triumphant return to running, Sarah found herself back in Dr. House's office for a checkup. She was feeling great, stronger than ever, but Dr. House insisted on a thorough examination. "Just making sure those little critters are really gone," he said, poking and prodding with his usual lack of bedside manner. "Wouldn't want them staging a comeback tour." The tests came back clear. The parasite was gone, her heart and lungs were functioning perfectly, and she was in better shape than ever before. "All right, you're good to go," Dr. House said, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. "Just try to stay away from those dodgy energy gels in the future. Stick to the good stuff." Sarah smiled. "I learned my lesson," she said. "I'm a lot more careful about what I eat and drink now." She paused, then added, "Dr. House, I never really got a chance to thank you properly. You saved my life. And I know you don't like to hear it, but—" "Don't," Dr. House interrupted, waving his hand dismissively. I just solved a puzzle. You did the hard work of getting better. But Sarah knew that it was more than just a puzzle to him. She had seen the flicker of concern in his eyes when she was at her worst. She knew that he cared, even if he didn't want to admit it. As she left his office, she felt a sense of gratitude and admiration for the grumpy doctor who had saved her life. She also felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was determined to use her experience to make a difference in the world. She continued to speak out about food safety, sharing her story with anyone who would listen. She worked with organizations to promote healthy eating habits and to educate people about the risks of contaminated products. She also started a foundation to support research into rare diseases and to provide assistance to patients and families affected by these conditions. Sarah's life had been forever changed by her experience. But she had turned a tragedy into an opportunity. She had become a champion for food safety, a voice for the voiceless, and an inspiration to millions. And she never forgot the lesson she had learned, that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. And that with courage, determination, and a little help from a brilliant but unconventional doctor, anything is possible. Years later, Sarah stood at the starting line of the Olympic marathon. She had trained harder than ever before, driven by the memory of her near-death experience. The starting gun fired, and Sarah surged forward, her heart filled with hope and determination. She ran with grace and power, her body moving effortlessly. She crossed the finish line in first place, winning the gold medal. The crowd erupted in cheers, celebrating her victory. As she stood on the podium, as the national anthem played, Sarah looked up at the flag, tears streaming down her face. She thought back to all the challenges she had overcome, the pain she had endured, and the people who had helped her along the way. She remembered her parents, who had never given up on her, even when things seemed hopeless. She remembered Dr. Miller, who had provided her with compassionate care and unwavering support. And she remembered Dr. House, the grumpy but brilliant doctor who had solved the puzzle and saved her life. She knew that she couldn't have done it without them. They had believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. They had given her the strength to keep fighting, to keep pushing, and to never give up on her dreams. After the ceremony, Sarah received a phone call from Dr. House. "Congratulations," he said, his voice gruff but sincere. "You finally did it." "Thank you," Sarah replied, her voice choked with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Don't give me too much credit," Dr. House said. "You were the one who did all the running." "But you were the one who showed me the way," Sarah replied. "You gave me hope when I had none. You believed in me when no one else did." There was a long pause. Then, Dr. House said, "Just promise me one thing." "Anything," Sarah replied. "Promise me you'll be careful about what you eat and drink," Dr. House said. "The world is full of dangers, and you need to protect yourself." "I promise," Sarah said. "I'll never forget what happened. And I'll always be grateful for everything you've done." Dr. House hung up the phone without saying goodbye. But Sarah knew that he was proud of her. And she knew that she had made him proud. She had come a long way from the young marathon runner who had collapsed during training. She had faced death and survived. She had overcome adversity and achieved her dreams. She had become a symbol of hope, a champion for food safety, and an inspiration to millions. And she knew that her journey was just beginning. She had a lot more running to do. The end.